So if you try to tell the story of your life, you probably start right at the beginning.
Right,
If
yeah.
you go from point A to point B, it's he met her, they fell in love, they broke up. It's just a clean, straight timeline.
A to B to C, exactly.
But if you actually close your eyes right now, like really think about it and try to experience a memory of love or loss, it doesn't look like a timeline at all, does it?
Not even a little bit.
No, it looks like this chaotic, swirling montage of moments.
Because real memory doesn't care about chronological order. I mean, it operates on triggers and echoes and these sudden emotional leaps.
And that is exactly why we are here today. So whether you are prepping for a big meeting or commuting to work or, you're just insanely curious about the hidden mechanics of how human beings process their own lives, you are in the exact right place. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today we're opening up a massive 10-part analytical source document to decode a piece of music that completely shatters that idea of a clean timeline. We are looking at Bob Dylan's legendary 1975 track, Tangled Up in Blue.
But, and I think we need to make this clear right up front, we aren't just doing a standard music history retrospective here.
No, definitely not. Our mission today is to use this document to decode this track as literally a masterclass in human memory, unstable identity, and narrative design.
It really is a masterclass.
We're going to see how a 1975 rock song perfectly maps onto how your modern fragmented brain processes your very own life story.
Yeah, and before we can even figure out what the narrative of this song is actually about, we have to look at the architecture of how the story is built.
The actual structure of it.
Right, because the sources point out something crucial right out of the gate. This song aggressively refuses straight chronology.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because most story songs hold your hand.
They do.
They introduce the characters, they
Okay.
establish the setting,
Yeah,
and they just walk you through the events in the exact order they happen.
like a traditional folk ballad.
Exactly. But Tangled Up in Blue throws you right into the middle of a recollection and then suddenly jumps to an encounter in a topless bar, leaps into the sudden geographical distance, and then loops all the way back to an unresolved return.
You are constantly playing catch-up.
You really are. You, the listener, are forced to actively assemble the story yourself. And the best way I can describe this structure is, well, think about scrolling through your phone's photo roll late at night.
Oh, that's a highly accurate parallel.
Right. Because you don't look at memories in strict chronological date order. You see a picture of a coffee shop, and that visual triggers a memory of a vacation you took like 3 years ago.
Yep.
And then that vacation memory triggers a complex feeling about someone you haven't even spoken to in a decade. You jump around based entirely on the emotion that one single fragment triggers.
And what the analysis reveals is how Dylan mirrors that exact psychological leap through his linguistic choices. I mean, he doesn't just jump around in time, he jumps around in perspective.
Which is wild for a pop song.
It is. Throughout the song, the narrative viewpoint moves right under your feet. He switches between I and we and he, sometimes with zero warning.
Just mid-verse.
Literally mid-verse. It's a concept literary critics call focalization.
Focalization, meaning who was actually holding the camera in the scene.
Precisely. It means the remembering subject, the person actually telling the story, is completely unstable.
Wow.
For example, he might start a verse describing a couple in the third person, saying, he was always in a hurry, and then suddenly shift to, I muttered something underneath my breath.
So the he and the I are blurring together.
They are completely blurring. It proves that identity changes across time and memory changes right along with it. You aren't listening to an objective, omniscient narrator.
You're not getting the God's eye view.
No, you are inside an active, messy consciousness that is constantly shifting as it remembers.
But wait, let me push back on that for a second. If he's constantly changing the pronouns, and I don't even know who is talking at any given moment, doesn't that just make it an alienating, confusing mess?
You'd think so, right?
Yeah, like why wouldn't a listener just tune out? If the timeline is broken and the characters keep swapping identities, it just sounds like a puzzle that's missing half its pieces.
Well, that is the brilliant part of the design. Complete coherence isn't the goal.
Really?
The instability is the point. If you try to map it onto a rigid timeline, you miss the emotional truth. The song works because it mimics how memory actually feels.
Right, messy and overlapping.
Exactly. But structurally, there is a very specific mechanism keeping you from getting totally lost. It's the refrain.
The phrase, tangled up in blue.
Yes. Every single time, the narrative jumps to a new, chaotic fragment Whether the narrator is suddenly working as a cook in the Great North Woods or living on Montague Street or standing on the side of a road, the musical and lyrical refrain returns.
Comes back to center.
It acts as an emotional stabilizer. It gathers all that chaotic temporal fragmentation into one enduring, recognizable feeling.
So even if you have absolutely no idea what year it is in the story,
Or what city they are in.
right, or what city, that refrain anchors you in the prevailing emotion. It's like gravity pulling all those floating memories back down into the room with you.
It creates a cycle. You wander out into the chaos of memory, and the refrain safely brings you back home.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the actual plot? Because if the timeline is fractured and the narrator keeps shifting, who is actually remembering this?
The million-dollar question.
Because human nature dictates that we naturally want the celebrity gossip, right?
Mhm.
We want to treat the lyrics of a famous songwriter like a secret locked diary.
We always do.
And this album, Blood on the Tracks, has this massive cultural reputation for being intensely intimate. So everyone always asks, is this just Bob Dylan singing a veiled confession about his own marital breakdown?
And this raises a really critical question about how we consume art. The sources spend a lot of time breaking down this specific debate.
Because it's a huge debate.
It is. There is a massive temptation for audiences to apply a confessional reading to a record like this, to assume the song is just delivering the artist's private, factual truth.
That it's just a diary entry set to music.
Right. But we have to recognize the deep divide between confession, which is pure historical testimony, and persona, which is crafted art.
Because Dylan himself spent years actively pushing back against the idea that this was just simple autobiography.
He hated that interpretation.
He'd tell interviewers it was based on Chekhov's short stories, or that it was about painting, not his life.
And the analytical document notes that interpreting this as pure diary entry is incredibly limiting to the listener.
Limiting how?
Well, instead of looking for facts, we should look at how the song operates like a piece of prose fiction. Dylan is using sophisticated techniques you usually only find in novels.
Okay, like what?
For instance, he uses compression.
All right, compression.
Yes.
Packing massive amounts of lived time into a tiny space.
Exactly. He can take an entire relationship's decay and reduce it to a single line. He also uses what the sources call character through glimpse.
I love this concept.
It's so effective. We don't get a long backstory about the woman in the song. Instead, we see her studying a math book or handing the narrator a book of poems written by an Italian poet from the 13th century.
And those tiny details do so much heavy lifting. You feel like you know this woman intimately just from those 2 or 3 specific images.
Right.
It implies this whole intellectual and emotional life without having to spell it out for the listener.
And that leads directly into another novelistic tool he uses, which is withheld exposition.
Withheld exposition.
The sources mention that he deliberately leaves out the connective tissue that would normally explain how the characters got from one place to another.
Oh, yeah. Because they are living together in the basement, and then suddenly he's working as a lumberjack, and they've drifted apart.
There's no explanation of the breakup logistics.
Or the travel arrangements. He just skips the boring parts.
Because in a novel, withholding exposition creates momentum and density. It forces the reader's brain to fill in the gaps. It implies a massive breathing world outside the margins of the text.
That makes total sense.
By using these tools, compression, character through glimpse, withheld exposition, the song builds a whole lived-in universe in under 6 minutes.
But let me ask you this. If we accept that it's a composite narrative or, a crafted persona and not a strictly true story about his own life, doesn't it lose its emotional weight?
Why would it?
Well, doesn't it feel a bit manipulative? Like we're being tricked by a clever author who is hiding behind a curtain rather than connecting with a real bleeding human being?
It actually achieves the exact opposite because authenticity does not require literal disclosure.
Authenticity does not require literal disclosure.
This is a crucial takeaway from the analysis. By uncoupling the song from strict autobiography and using those novelistic tools, the song achieves what the sources call emotional portability.
Okay, let's really dig into that. Emotional portability.
If a songwriter writes a hyper-specific, strictly factual song about their exact life circumstances in a specific year, the listener is just a voyeur.
You're just watching them.
Exactly. You are looking at their pain through a window, But emotional portability means the song is porous.
Porous, okay.
The details are vivid, the topless place, the laces of the shoes, the book of poems, but the timeline and the identities are open. It allows you, the listener, to step inside the song and pack your own memories into it.
Oh, so it becomes a vessel.
Yes. People hear their own histories in the song. It becomes a container for your own grief, your own longing, your own unresolved relationships.
Wow.
And that is exponentially more powerful than if it were just a rigid, factual, historical document of Bob Dylan's life in 1974.
It's an empty room that's painted perfectly, just waiting for you to move your own furniture into it.
That is a great way to put it. And that room isn't just metaphorically open. The physical history of the song itself mirrors this exact fluidity.
Oh man, the history of the recording.
The song refused to sit still in the real world. The archival history detailed in our sources is fascinating.
The studio sessions.
Yeah.
This blew my mind because, okay, the song was originally recorded in New York in September of 1974.
Right.
And it was mostly acoustic, very stark, very intimate. Test pressings of the album were already made. The record was basically done.
Ready to ship.
Right. But then Dylan stops everything, goes to Minneapolis in late December of 1974, hires a bunch of local musicians he barely knows, and completely re-records it.
He essentially throws away the finished draft.
It completely shatters that romantic myth of the one-take miracle, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
That idea that a genius just steps up to a microphone, closes their eyes, and magic just pours out effortlessly. He literally stopped the printing press to rewrite the first chapter of his book.
It reveals the song as a site of active decisions. Revision is a huge part of the craft here.
Yeah.
The New York sessions were famously characterized by an open tuning on the guitar, which gave the song a melancholic, almost spooky, lingering quality.
Very haunting.
But in Minneapolis, they switched to standard tuning. They added a full rhythm section. The tempo was driven up.
Totally different vibe.
The entire sonic landscape shifted from a quiet reflection to an urgent pursuit.
And it didn't even stop in the studio. The sources track how he continuously rewrites the song in live performances over the subsequent decades.
That's just so rare.
He changes the pronouns on stage, he rewrites entire verses, he shifts the tempos. But, okay, this brings up a massive structural question.
Go for it.
With all this constant changing, fragmented narrative, shifting perspectives, alternating lyrics, how does the music itself keep this whole thing from totally collapsing? Like, why doesn't it just fall apart?
The music is the glue. The sources highlight the absolute interdependence of text and sound.
Interdependent?
We can't just analyze the words on a page as if it's silent poetry. The music provides the forward momentum that the fractured lyrics lack.
So it's a tension between the two. The rhythm acts like a relentless metronome pushing you forward, while the lyrics are constantly trying to pull you backward into the past.
And that friction is what creates the energy of the track. The pacing, the driving acoustic guitar, the harmonica, and especially Dylan's vocal phrasing.
Yes, the phrasing, the way he attacks the words.
Exactly. He will deliberately cram a massive amount of syllables into a single bar of music, like rushing through the line about her working in a topless place. And then he will draw out and linger on a single vowel in the next line.
He's playing with the rhythm of the words.
He's manipulating time with his breath. That phrasing carries the narrative. It turns complex, confusing literary fragmentation into an urgent, forward-moving physical mobility.
So the music makes the memory inhabitable.
Exactly. The music makes it inhabitable.
It gives all those floating nonlinear memories a physical heartbeat.
And those live performances you mentioned, where he alters the lyrics years later, they prove that the song is an event, not a frozen text.
Right, it's alive.
Through embodiment, the physical presence of the singer in a new room, in a new year, with a new audience, the memory is reenacted under new historical conditions.
He isn't trying to faithfully reproduce the 1975 record like a museum piece.
No, he's actively reopening the memory.
Which brings us to a really crucial point about where you actually place a song with this much movement and this much gravity. And more importantly, how you and I choose to listen to it today.
The album context is everything.
Our sources emphasize the song's crucial role as the album gateway, because Tangled Up in Blue is the very first track on Blood on the Tracks.
Track 1.
It sets the listening frame for the entire record. It introduces the core themes right away: travel, estrangement, fluid identity, and unresolved return. It is literally teaching you how to listen to the rest of the album.
It preconditions the ear. It serves as a warning label that basically says, This record will be deeply personal, but it will not be still.
Right.
It will be unstable. The narrator is unreliable. You are going to have to work to keep up.
And this is where I want to talk directly to you, the listener, because in our modern digital culture, we've become a ruthless playlist culture.
Oh, absolutely.
We just grab a catchy track, pull it completely out of its original environment, throw it on a workout mix or a commute playlist, and run. We consume music as isolated fragments.
Divorced from its context.
Exactly. But when you put Tangled Up in Blue back where it belongs, as track 1, it demands something from you that we really don't give much anymore. Slow, deliberate attention.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture of how we live today, the song's structure is shockingly modern.
How so?
Well, we live in an era of what the analytical sources refer to as curated selfhood.
Curated selfhood, you mean how we present ourselves online?
Exactly. On social media or even just in professional settings, everyone presents a highly selective, polished, and strictly chronological narrative of their life.
Right, the highlight reel.
Here is my graduation. Here is my career success. Here is my perfect vacation. Here is my linear progression. We build these neat little timelines to prove that we make sense.
But this song strips all of that artificial polish away. It admits that life isn't a neat grid of chronological photos.
Not at all.
Life is actually a messy, unpredictable montage of triggers. The self who is remembering the past is not identical to the self who originally lived it.
The song acknowledges that you can be walking down the street today, smell a specific brand of perfume, or hear a certain tone of voice, and be instantly, violently transported to a rainy Tuesday 10 years ago.
Wow.
It breaks the curated timeline.
And that is so profound, this deep dive. I mean, it isn't just about music history. It isn't just about unearthing some cool acoustic guitar facts from a 1970s recording session. It's about validating the nonlinear way you actually experience your own life.
Right.
When you feel a sudden pang of grief for something you thought you moved past a decade ago, or a wave of nostalgia that hits you out of nowhere, or a complex, unresolved feeling about an old friend, that isn't a glitch in your system.
It's not a mistake.
That isn't you being broken or failing to move on.
Mm-hmm.
That is just how the architecture of human memory actually works.
The song gives you permission to exist in that fragmentation. It doesn't force a neat Hollywood resolution where there simply isn't one. It lets the past remain tangled.
It's incredible. We've gone from looking at a song that, on paper, seemed like a confusing, nonlinear puzzle, to seeing it as an absolute masterclass in novelistic songwriting.
It really is.
We've seen how it evolved from an acoustic, melancholic studio draft in New York to an urgent driving confession in Minneapolis. It is a living, breathing, constantly changing study of memory and music.
It really is a monument to the fact that uncertainty and instability are not defects in art. They are the very mechanisms that allow us to share our most difficult, unresolvable experiences with each other.
Absolutely. And, we want to thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Your curiosity and your willingness to embrace the ambiguity of these muddy, complex waters with us is what makes exploring these sources so rewarding.
It's been a genuine pleasure to unpack the architecture of this track.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talk entirely about how the songwriter reshaped his memory through shifting pronouns, new tempos, and live performances. If Tangled Up in Blue proves that a story naturally changes every single time we remember it, or every time we perform it for an audience, what does that say about the definitive story you tell yourself about your own past?
That's a great question.
Think about the story you tell people at dinner parties about who you used to be. Is your personal history really a finished record, locked away in a vault? Or are you still, subtly, playing alternate takes in your head? Until next time, keep listening closely.